Hi folks, Amy here. I just wanted to update you with some thoughts to wrap up our comparing sources activity discussion from last week. We are going to continue talking about working with sources this week as you complete your plagiarism discussion, and that focuses more on how to incorporate information from your sources into your own writing once you have found them. And so this week kind of moves us from the research process portion of the argument unit into the drafting portion of the argument unit, where you will actually begin to draft your argument essay moving into next week. So just to kind of give you some of my own thoughts wrapping up our work with research, I just wanted to point out that all of you do have access to online searchable databases through the Poudre River Public Library, and all of the libraries that are affiliated with the different Front Range campuses, because I know not everyone's home campus is up here in Fort Collins. However, this is a public library, and so you are able to access the research databases as long as you have a library card, and you can go get a library card at the library, or you can apply for a temporary library card by going down to this My Library section at the bottom of the main homepage, poudrelibraries.org, and clicking on library cards, where you can then apply for a temporary card. I pointed this out on my midweek updates, but I just want to emphasize it again here because I know some of you might feel like you don't have access to these databases, but really you do. And you can also access other databases through all the public libraries in Colorado, including the major university libraries, CSU or CU, or some of the universities in Denver, that you can get just by applying for a library card at those particular libraries. So I wanted to point that out. And also, some of the comments that I saw throughout the week also mentioned some concerns that you guys had about having to pay for the databases. And I just wanted to assure you that that fee is already included in your course fees that you pay as part of your tuition here at Front Range. And so not only do you not have to pay any additional money to use those, you are in fact already paying for them, and so you might as well use them so that you can get your money's worth. And so I highly encourage all of you to take advantage of that resource, because it is, as we'll see in some of your comments, the most efficient way to find good, credible sources. I know that some of you feel like you can find the same kinds of sources through Google Scholar, and that's true, but typically when you go through Google Scholar, you will find that you are then prompted to pay for your access to the article, and sometimes it can be, upwards of $20 just for one article. And so if you're using these online databases through the library, like I said, you're already paying for that access through your course fees, and so just clicking on that research button will lead you to all of the databases by topic, or you can search them alphabetically. Okay, so I will come back to this Poudre Library research section in just a bit to show you some examples of some efficient tricks that you can use to find your sources. But for now, I just want to jump into the discussion itself and comment on some of the threads that I saw popping up in some of the topics that you guys were covering as you were posting and commenting and reflecting throughout the week. All right, one thing that I wanted to show is that you guys talked a lot about the differences between different types of sources that you find on the free access internet that are identified by different domain types, .org, .gov. And so it was really good that you guys were picking up on those subtle differences in types of sources, and also that there are even some hidden tricks in terms of how to use each different type of source itself. So I thought this comment really touched on that. I used Google as well, and I agree with you. There were some .gov websites on a Google search that seemed a little more reliable, but I don't know if I would say that I agree that .org sites are more credible than .com sites. I found there to be a lot of organizations that I wouldn't consider credible. Articles from a licensed database do seem much more reliable, and I would certainly trust them more than websites from a Google search. So So I really liked the point that was brought up here that just because something is a .org site does not mean that it's credible. Typically .orgs are not-for-profit organizations, but just because they're not-for-profit doesn't mean they have some other, or they don't have some other agenda that they're trying to push. And so oftentimes those types of sources and organizations can be extremely biased. So you need to watch out for that. I also thought this was an interesting comment. I also think some of the websites in Google are paid to be on the top of the list. Therefore, I would rather choose licensed databases for my research to be sure that the information I'm getting is reliable and credible. To my opinion, some of the links in Google are biased. This is a really good point, and I think what's meant here is that the actual businesses or organizations pay Google to be at the top of the list, and that's true. So just watch out for that. You do think you're getting an unbiased account of what sources fit your search terms most closely, but that's not always the case when you're out in the free access portion of the internet. However, licensed databases, because their goal is simply the dissemination of scholarly research, do in fact try to sort your results based on what results fit your search terms most closely. Here's another comment that relates to the differences in domain types and also some search strategies here at the end. As I was working on my assignment, I chose Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I noticed a lot of .com and .org, but only one .gov. I found myself going to the .gov link first, knowing that would be my most reliable source. I found that the online database search through the Pooter Library database really narrowed down what I was searching for. I agree that both database and web searches can be useful just as long as you know what is fact and what is an opinion. I'm curious though, what is the Boolean search string? So just to begin with, there are some good points here about domain types. It is true that .gov sites are going to be probably your most reliable online free access sources in addition to .edu sites, and that databases do really narrow down your search results a lot more efficiently. This question here about Boolean search terms I wanted to address directly. Boolean search terms are those terms like or, and not that are typically and conventionally used to link search terms together. And you'll notice within the library database, if you go to an advanced search, for example in Academic Search Premier, there are boxes, over here, already set up for those Boolean terms and, or, and not. And so a Boolean term like and would give you results that included both of your search terms, for example, illegal and immigration. So you would get all the sources that talked about immigration in its illegal form. If you wanted illegal or immigration, you would get all the sources that talk about either one of these topics or both of them. So you might get some topics about things that are illegal but not necessarily about immigration, or you might get some results that are about immigration but not necessarily illegal immigration. Or if you were trying to search for a type of immigration and exclude another type, you could use the term not. And maybe in this case I would reverse these so that I would get all the sources that talk about immigration but not the illegal kind. So only legal immigration in this case, and then we would see what we get. You'll notice that on that advanced search you can narrow your results to scholarly sources simply by checking the box that says peer-reviewed, but you can also add any of those restrictions at any time just by looking at your options over here on the left-hand side. If you want full text, if you only want scholarly sources, or if you want sources from a particular publication range, say in the last, 11 years. So that's really narrowed down my sources quite a bit already. And then this is also where you'll find those subject and thesaurus terms that I pointed out earlier that might help you come up with synonyms for your search terms that you'll find common in the sources that are popping up in your results. So that's very helpful. You can also use Boolean terms, however, in the free access portion of the internet just by typing them in and also using quotation marks to separate each individual search term the way you would in boxes like on an advanced search such as this. So if I did immigration and illegal, I would get all sources that talk about illegal immigration. If I did immigration or illegal, I would get all sources that talk about immigration, all sources that talk about illegal things, and all sources that talk about illegal immigration. And if I did immigration not illegal, I would get all sources that talked about legal immigration. However, it doesn't seem to be working as effectively here. So I know a lot of people want to use natural language in their search terms, like for example, what is the best way to deal with illegal immigration? But that is very difficult for a search engine like Google or like a database search tool to make sense of. And so if you can narrow down your keyword searches to individual words as much as possible, that will really help you, and then link them together with these Boolean terms, and it will be set up in a way that the search engine itself can understand, and that will really help you find more results more efficiently. Okay, and then going back to our comments, I just wanted to point out this last one that kind of sums up, I believe, the most important highlights in terms of when it's appropriate to search in different places. So it seems to strengthen an article much more if using facts and other information from a peer-reviewed article. It does seem to take more time sifting through the results when doing a Google search, but there certainly are well-researched, informative websites that can be found there. Overall, though, it seems that a licensed database or licensed databases are much more efficient and really better to use in most essays. And that's true because if something has been through the process of peer review, then the work has been done for you to determine that it is credible, reliable, and good information. Okay, just a couple other threads that I wanted to point out because there were some good things that came up. One of these was I noticed in, let's see, Christian's original thread, I had brought up the suggestion of when it might be appropriate to use different types of search tools. And so what I was really getting at here was that, you know, when you are in your initial phase of research and just kind of exploring the topic, it can be very effective to get some ideas together by searching the free access web. But then when you get to actually writing your essay and using sources to support your own arguments, you want to be much more careful about finding credible sources. And so later in the process is when it might be more appropriate to use the databases as opposed to using the free access portion of the internet more toward the beginning. I also wanted to point out a couple things in Francesca's thread. I thought that there were some good points brought up here, particularly in terms of how to get to the databases themselves. So I wanted to point that out. I also wanted to point out on Brandon's original thread that there were some interesting comments coming up in a good exchange. Let me find that one right here. I had asked a question about, you know, just clarifying that the databases themselves, while they are for profit, usually the publishers of those sources are not. And then Alexandra and Crystal had some good questions, and then I thought Brandon really synthesized everything well here, talking about narrowing down his results more drastically and dramatically a lot more easily through the website databases. And then finally, I also wanted to point out that on Devin's thread, there was an exchange that took place regarding difficulty when searching online databases, and that was kind of the outlier to our discussion, so I just wanted to pointed out here. I know that Devin had talked a lot about having trouble using the databases, and Mariah was concerned that that was a little bit too much information and might be difficult to understand and it could be overwhelming. And I think, again, a lot of this comes down to just practice. It's about getting into these databases, playing around with these tools, and becoming more comfortable with how you're going to narrow down your results. And then also just understand that, you know, you may not want to get into these kinds of sources until you've already developed a pretty good understanding of your topic. Where Mariah is saying it can be a lot of overwhelming information, that's true because these sources really are geared at the expert level. And so you may have to do some initial research and develop your background knowledge through a free access internet search first, so that by the time you get to the databases, it doesn't feel quite as overwhelming like Mariah is talking about here. So I just wanted wanted to point that out because I feel like if you become overwhelmed or if you struggle too much with the databases and feel like you want to give up, then you can really miss out on an excellent opportunity to find some very credible sources quickly and easily just by using some of the search tools that are available to you through the way that the database itself is set up. Okay, so I do have some more comments going back to the discussion itself regarding your reflections at the end of the week, but I'm going to have to start a new video because I have a 15-minute limit here. So to be continued, and I will post both of these together. So give me just a second, please.